Welcome to Candidly Copilot with your hosts, Chad Stout and Michael Gannotti. Sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and let's get candid with Copilot. All right. Welcome, everybody. We are your hosts, Chad
Stout,
and Mike Gannotti, and this is our third of this new series where we're going to be talking about Copilot each week, real quick, fast-paced, in 30 minutes or less. So this week we have a good packed agenda. We're going to be talking about our three things for the week, and we're focusing on the crawl kind of intro aspect around Microsoft Copilot, then Copilot with EDP or Enterprise Data Protection, and then Copilot for Microsoft 365. We'll have some time for open QA. We have a great prompt for the week, and then wrap up, and we'll plug and talk about the next episode. But before we get on, Chad, how are you doing?
Not too bad, Mike. I know we giggled a little bit beforehand. Not too bad. A good weekend, pretty low key. Been busy with all things Copilot with customers, so taking a little break over the weekend's kind of nice to do.
Yeah, it is. So just kind of low key over the weekend?
Yep, low key over the weekend.
Cool.
Nothing too big. I did play 18 holes of golf because here in Utah, winter's coming, so that was probably my last chance.
Well, over here, kind of the same low key, although today is kind of exciting. We have contractors, and I have a fairly sizable amount in my back that's fenced today, and about 1.5 acres, and but the contractors for a new giant fence we're having put in have showed up putting posts in, and they're expanding it an additional 1/4 acre out back. Wow. So my dogs will be very happy. That's all. And my John Deere will be sad because it's going to have to work a lot harder.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's dogs about it going on here. Nice. For those who've joined, for attendees, as always, we have the QA. If you want to ask questions, let us know where you're joining from, etc. You'll see at the top, there's a QA area, and you can go in there and post questions. We'll be monitoring that and answering them as we go along. But let's go ahead and jump into what today is about, which is our three things. And you want to say a few words about this, Chad?
I would, Mike. This whole idea around AI and this experience for users to interact with the machine is pretty new, right? We've interacted human to human for our entire lives. And so getting comfortable, communicating, right, having a conversation with a computer as the interface, right, is a little bit different. So when I talk to customers, I speak to them around this kind of, I put it in the format of crawl, walk, run. As you know, right, our platform supports kind of the crawl, the walk, the run. And as you go from left to right, it gets a little more complex with regards to, right, making things work. And so when we talk about crawl, it's like the perfect opportunity in my mind to orient people around what is it like to have a conversation with a machine, right?
Yeah.
And we experienced this internally as customer zero early on. It was a little odd, right? It felt a little different. And so getting these technologies like Microsoft Copilot at home, Copilot with EDP as part of your M365 licensing, and then of course Copilot for M365, which is that add-on license. These are great opportunities to orient yourself around this new behavior.
Yeah. And I think what I love about it is, organizations as they're looking to come on, having even in that crawl phase, that continuum, right, of moving up the stack where users can start getting ready, even at home.
Yeah.
And it all starts with the baseline of our three today, which is Microsoft Copilot.
That's right. I have, there's one great experience. I was looking for property. You were talking about property earlier.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You've got a lot. I was looking at acreages about a year ago. Well, I still look every day, but anyway, I had found a few pieces of property I liked, but the HOAs, the CC&Rs, all those things are pretty complex and take a while to read through. Well, I was using Copilot for home, right? Personal Copilot, copilot.microsoft.com, actually helped me understand, right, and summarize some of those very lengthy legal contracts. And so that was something, right, that was like, wow, that was super impactful for me, because I asked Copilot for the summary. It took me less than 5 minutes to understand it. Whereas, a 75-page document, you read through all weekend and you're still trying to understand it. So that's where, that kind of light bulb moment for me occurred.
And I think, you bring up a great point, because you're talking, and when we talk about Microsoft Copilot, we're just talking the generic, you could be on the web. I have on my personal PC over here. It has it in Windows. I've got it on mobile.
Yep.
And it's that idea that, you start, if you're getting use and starting to learn the impactfulness on your own at home. And I think that's something that orgs don't think about, right? When, as a way to prep users, encourage them at home and stuff, give them some resources. Because, like, I'll tell you, here's my iPhone, right? Just got my update to 18.1 today. And I've got Copilot here, and I use it all the time. Yeah. And it was, for me, my light bulb moment was, it was on a personal piece where my wife and her sisters driving to Michigan, they were looking for something they were going to give like a tribute speech to their brother. And they were, just having some issues. And I got a text, right, about it. So I did punch in the parameters on my phone, and then I forwarded it in the text to them. And that's, what they were able to use. So it's kind of those things as you start to get immersed. And what they used to call that, oh shoot, I'm forgetting, where it has to do with consumer driving stuff in the enterprise.
Consumerization of IT. Basically.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's because you're a younger man than me. There you go. But that idea that it pushes it, and just real quickly, and I think just as a visual, so people that tune in can see the difference. I'm going to pull up, and maybe you might want to speak to this. I'm going to pull up my browser, and here I opened. You can see I'm in the Edge browser. Here's Copilot. Then come right here, and it's got last stuff about some shows and things I was looking for. I can message it, or go to copilot.microsoft.com, and it looks the same. Mm-hmm. But all those things we were talking about right here on a personal level at my fingertips.
Yeah, that's right. And this looks quite a bit different, actually, from a couple weeks ago. I know they made some changes, at least on the consumer side, right, to give it the look and feel of more like, hey, this thing's always with me, right? Yep. Helping me make decisions, helping me answer questions, helping me summarize complex documents, right? So, just like you, I got the new 16 and I threw Copilot on it right away. What I like about mobile, and where I talk to I'm in the HLS org, I talk a lot to providers, I talk a ton to clinical workers, and that's where I think real impact happens, right? Because, in a conversation with a customer, it's like, what's the future of medical compute devices? And I said, it's right here. You're going to talk to it,
Yeah.
right? You're
Yeah.
going to talk to it through the Copilot interface, right? So talking to it, again, a little different, right? It takes a bit to get comfortable talking to a piece of hardware, but it kind of takes it to the next level, right? Like it's, I see baby steps within, or should I say baby crawls within crawl,
Yeah.
right? And some of those things we're talking about right now.
Well, and it's funny you say that because it just hit me. Something is with my son. He's of that younger generation, right? Tech savvy. He's young. He lives off of this thing. And you said talk to it. And he before all the AI stuff, it used to drive me nuts. We'd be looking something up, and he'd hit, whether it's an Android or an Apple device, but he would hit that, assistant, and he would speak to it rather than type in. And I'm like the silent one. I'm always typing. But he would just do that naturally now with Copilot. And again, that unified interface, right? So here it is. It's looking, this looks like what's on the screen,
Yep.
right? And
Yeah.
in all those interfaces now, I have the microphone. I can even upload imagery to have it identify and do things around that. And I can, of course, just talk to Copilot, right? And there we go. There's the home screen where and it has like suggested things and things of that nature. So it's got that great kind of unified from a home. That's starting off at the low end. But next it gets for enterprises that we talk to, like healthcare. What's that next jump?
Yeah, Mike, let me share that experience quickly here.
Yes.
So I actually just finished up a call with a
Mm-hmm.
provider, and I was speaking to a clinical leader, and his use case was around, hey, I'm doing presentations all the time, right? And I've got an upcoming presentation for a medical conference. I'm a busy man, right?
Yep.
So how do I leverage Copilot to do that quickly? And we simply jumped into, right, away from web, which you were just on,
Yep.
and we jumped into work, right? We have the work toggle for Copilot for M365 users. If I'm over
Mm-hmm.
here on web, right, that's available to me by way of my M365 subscription. I could very easily prompt within web, right? But when I do prompt within work, right, the
Mm-hmm.
benefit to that is saying, hey, ground on M365 specific data first. Tell me if I
Yep.
have anything that's stored in my tenant that I have access to. And it did so here. It gave me the hyperlinks to each of these documents, right? I had
Mm-hmm.
prepped for this call. Um, and then, right, because we've got web grounding enabled with Copilot with EDP, Enterprise Data Protection, I get a table also, right, with content from the web that I could quickly click into.
Right.
Um, the nice thing, right, we kind of talked about that. I ran them through how, right, collecting this information, we had a couple options, right? One of those options was, right, I downloaded some of these PDFs. We
Mm-hmm.
grounded a Word document specifically in the PDFs, right, to create an outline and then to create a talk track and then use
Yep.
those artifacts, right, to create a presentation in PowerPoint. And we did that within like the first 10 minutes of the call, right? So it's like, what else do you want to do?
Well,
So
that's the
that's,
thing, right? You're much faster,
yeah,
so you can work on more strategic things.
yeah, yeah. And quite frankly, like, in prompting and grounding, right, that prompt in a specific PDF that he had
Mm-hmm.
interest in, right, we were able to get a lot more detail, especially around the talk tracks, right? So um, it's interesting. It takes a little bit of time, and it's kind of incremental, right, as you experiment and as you move
Yep.
along. And what you come to find out is it's almost like, yeah, this is innate, right? Like this is like me having a conversation with Michael, right? just not used to having it with the machine. So I've kind of got to go through the motion to essentially get a comfort level, right? But once that comfort level's there and it's there for users within your org, right? That's when it really starts to boost productivity, because the deep then becomes, let's ask Copilot. Let's ask Copilot first, right? Now in wave two, we've really supercharged this thing, right? Because I can edit this in pages, right? So it brings the content into pages, which is essentially Loop on the back end, right? And
Yep.
then I can do things like share with other people,
Yeah.
right? I can share this with you, Michael. I can invite you, right, to be part of this conversation. And so now it's like multiplayer AI assisted collaboration.
It's exactly what it is, right? 'Cause when you open up that Loop page, like if you sent that to me and I open it in my view, then what do we have front and center ready to open up on the right? Copilot. And we can still continue to invoke it, but now we're collaborating synchronously, asynchronously. Um, yeah, it is. It takes it to that next step. There's one thing though that's the differentiator here with the last one that's a big one for, like we work in healthcare and life science, right? So very compliance minded. And what we have is enterprise data protection, right, for this particular view. So customers, as long as they have an Entra ID, which means they're a customer, M365, right?
Yep.
They automatically get it. They're logged in, they get it. Enterprise data protection. So that their content, instead of like the consumer sending stuff out, using it to train models, retaining that data for use for advertised target, none of that takes place.
That's right.
We still protect them. And we have details. We'll give them some resources later. But yeah, cool. So the last one, let me reshare here out of the three, is around M365 Copilot. So we've seen it kind of where we can open it in a browser, open it in mobile, even from the desktop, this separate Copilot view. But the thing I love with M365 Copilot is it's just there in the apps you're already using.
That's right.
Right? So real quickly, I'm going to pull up.
Yeah, and
Here is.
I'll add on to
Go
that,
ahead.
Michael, as you're pulling that up, actually.
Yeah.
We've talked about maintaining your flow, right? Or staying within the flow of work.
Yep.
I think we started talking about that back in, the days of Teams early on, right? And so
Yes.
the idea that we can just access this basically an assistant, right? Kind of a superpowered assistant. We can access that assistant within the flow of whatever apps we're using from M365, right? So in the case of Loop, in the case of Outlook, right, it's right there front and center. In the case of Word, which you're going to show here, right, Copilot is, boom, front and center.
Right, it's right there, and I love it. We try to make it. It's available in multiple views, but you can see here, starting to write, describe what you'd like to write. I can even reference one or more files, which I love, drawing that in. And if I needed to, maybe if I was opening an existing document or I want to do some additional activities, I could select Copilot here on the side. And then, hey, what do I want to ask it? Ask it anything. Right now, I've got nothing here. So it's not going to give me a whole lot, but you'll see that'll actually change once I drop in. So I have a just real generic one, create an FAQ around the importance of proper hand washing and sterilization after a clinician is finished with a patient. We have documentation internally, so it's going to look at that. And what I also love is they've been tuning. I mean, look at how fast it started. Before you sat and you went, dun, 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 dun. What's that, Jeopardy or whatever?
Yeah.
Twiddling your thumbs, waiting for it to get started. Bam! I mean, it's fast now. and it's gone ahead. It's created, this diagram for me. I can go ahead. I can iterate on it, or not. I'm going to go ahead and say, let's go back here. I'm just going to say keep it. But once I have this particular document, I can do all kinds of stuff, because anytime I input my cursor, like here, or maybe I go at the end, look at it, I got Copilot available here to continue to call it to write, or I'll put it right here. We're even doing some new stuff like create an image. And I'll just say an image of a male nurse washing their hands in the ER. And it understands what ER is. I love that.
Yeah.
So click that, and then it's going to take, and now it's using DALL-E on the background, DALL-E 3, I think, right now, to go ahead and give me 4 available images. So in the flow of work, as I'm doing stuff in PowerPoint, in whatever application, we have it in Paint.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand it's coming to Notepad. I'm waiting to see when that happens, what it's going to do. But we have all these options right there available to us to keep, to continue to work with it. And it's going to generate. This one takes a little longer. We might not wait for that, but this idea, we had consumer, enterprise data protection, and then my apps, all in just the early crawl. There we go.
Did a pretty good job there.
Boom.
Yep. So I'm glad you created a FAQ, because I think that's a pretty common exercise for organizations that, have to address questions or provide answers to, maybe even just standard operating procedures, right? Or regulatory requirements. When we first started talking to customers about Copilot, I was so thankful for our facts, right? Usually in a Word doc, and Copilot, right? Because then I could just ask Copilot. I mean, very quickly, right? That fact document turned into like 1,000 questions and answers within weeks.
Yeah.
Right. And it was so hard to climb through it. At first, when it was 30 questions, it was like, okay, right? But people kept adding to it. Customers kept, right, asking us questions. So we had to add answers to the fact. But then to be able to then ask Copilot that very specific question, and for it to climb through 1,000+ question and answers, right, and get you 1 or 2 positive hits on answers. Wow, what a time saver.
Yeah. I mean, it is. And it's that all that stuff that we've always, wasted so much time trying to comb through. Like, I have customers say, well, I could search for that today. Yeah, you can. Then you get back 1 of 10 of 10 trillion million, right? Returns. And then you got to open each one of those and sift through. And this just does all the intermediary stuff for you, and then says, here you go.
Well, and what I really like is it does provide the citations too, right? So if you think, oh, I'm 90% sure that's the correct answer, I can at least click right into the citation, validate that, okay, it is the right answer, and then send it away, right? Or answer the question for the customer. That it's been super helpful for me in this context.
I'll tell you, like we're doing office hours for a customer, it's several times a week right now. They're doing a big pilot, and they come up with all kinds of questions, right? They're great questions, but my little brain can only have so much stored in it for immediate response. But it's amazing because, like, at the end of the meeting, that's what I do. I go in, I start asking Copilot the questions, it starts distilling it down, and I'll get the results, their answers out within the next, 30 minutes while I'm doing other stuff and sitting in on a meeting. And they're like, oh, that was fast.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
One thing that just came to mind actually from that customer conversation this morning, And you mentioned search, right? One of the comments, right, from the physician was, holy cow, right? Not only do I get search quicker, but I don't have to sift through pages of advertisements first. And that alone saves me a little bit of time and aggravation. So that was one of his comments. And I thought, wow, yeah, that's true, man. Like, because back in the days of, still do it from time to time because it's been a habit for 25 years, right? I Google it. And what happens is I got to sift through, okay, the first 4 or 5 of these are advertisements. Now I might get into some of the meat of what I'm looking for, but it's timely, right? It's time consuming in some ways, and a little bit frustrating, quite frankly.
No, that's all spot on. So for those, attending, those who are going to watch this, mostly watch it on demand, couple of resources. We'll have the links on the post, just so you know. So we do have a repository growing weekly, literally every week. New ones, short 10-minute or less, how to do stuff. And that's the basics, not the long stuff. These are all crawl kind of items that you can get use out of. There's a Microsoft adoption resources page that has suggested prompts, how to prompt, all kinds of stuff for orgs and users. And then there is an add-on it's an open source by some folks here at Microsoft called Prompt Buddy that you can install. People can have it right in Teams and find prompts that are relevant. And I'm actually part of a group that's putting together a healthcare and life sciences add-on pack of specific prompts. So awesome. Some great, easy resources. Prompt of the week. We don't have time to show it, so I'm just going to call it out here. We're going to give a prompt every week. I challenge you, go into Microsoft Forms. If you own 365, you own this. And I have to give credit because this was originally done by the man who I'm looking at right here. Chad was the one who first turned me on to doing forms. I'm like, wait a minute, what? And it does a killer job. I did, just so you know, Chad, the other day for a customer, they were asking about inline quizzes to PowerPoints for training. And I said, well, you got forms right there, insert in PowerPoint, click, quiz, click, and we did the same thing for a quiz.
So good. So good. Talk about within the flow of work. That's great.
And it was done. And it was embedded in the PowerPoint then.
Love it.
So there's your prompt of the week. I didn't do the drum roll. There it is. I know we're running low on time. But next week, we're going to be starting to go up that food chain, right? Where we're going to be talking graph connectors, which I actually was just working with somebody on a ServiceNow graph connector to their knowledge base. Pretty cool.
There you go.
Agents. I'm excited about agents because I'm working right now on a project with our HPSI. It's Education, Healthcare, Life Sciences, State and Local Government. And our VP wants this big repository. So we're doing that agent, but I also have a customer who wants to do something like that and extend to encompass World Health Organization's online repository and the CDC's online repository. And it's stupid simple to do.
Simple. It is very simple. I actually put one together as a kind of well, you could do it this way, Mr. Clinician, but here's a really cool way to do it. So that was part of that demo this morning, was a little bit of Copilot and SharePoint to build those Copilot agents.
So we'll show that next week.
Yeah,
and it's so easy. It's scary.
Super easy.
Yeah. You're like, I'm going to get him on one of our new TSs who just joined, John Farringer, flipping rock star. He built one that did online and, not on-prem, but in 365 cloud, online resources, agent with actions.
Nice.
I was like, are you kidding me? It was awesome. So we'll have to get him on for one to show. But great. Just a reminder, we got to wrap. I got a meeting. I'm sure you do. But today's podcast, the recording will be posted. Please add your questions underneath the post. I know we ran long. We're playing with this now. It's early goings. We may extend it 45 or something. We'll see how it works. But the HLS blog, we'll have that. We'll have the resources, and you can certainly post questions and we'll follow up. So with that, it is, say your name.
Chad Stout.
Mike Gannotti. But you have a great day. Take care. And as always, as I turn it off for recording, ciao.
Ciao.